The sound of trays banging against metal tables fills the air. Deep voices mingle with the scraping of chairs. Harsh light streams in through the tall windows. The smell of institutional food, a prison cafeteria at lunchtime, nothing special, nothing new. Then a bald man, in a faded blue uniform, sits alone at a corner table. He slowly opens his tray. White rice, bland chicken, overcooked vegetables, and then he pulls a pair of chopsticks out of his pocket. Simple wood. Worn. He holds it firmly, like someone who learned this long ago, somewhere else, in another life. The conversation continues around them, but some glances are already starting to turn away. Look at those weird little sticks over there. A muffled laugh. He doesn't look up, he just eats. Slowly. Controlled. As if you were in a Japanese restaurant, not a federal prison. On the other side of the cafeteria, a huge man stands up. Colorful tattoos on his chest, arms, and neck. He's the kind of guy who lives to be seen, always standing, always shouting, always the center of attention. He claps once, twice. He gets attention. Hey guys, did you see? The bald samurai is back. Immediate laughter. He walks over to a sink in the corner where someone has left a metal watering can, used for watering the patio plants. He picks it up, feels its weight, and smiles. Fill the drinking fountain with water. Slowly, theatrically, the entire cafeteria already knows what's coming. The man in blue continues eating, but his shoulders adjust, imperceptibly. Only someone looking closely notices. The bully approaches from behind. He climbs onto a stool. He raises the watering can like a trophy, and he dumps it. The water falls directly onto the quiet man's head. It runs down his face. It soaks his uniform. It drips onto his plate. The cafeteria erupts in laughter. He closes his eyes. Take a deep breath. Place the chopsticks gently on the edge of the tray. Don't shout. Don't push. Don't react. Just pat your head, remove the excess water, and look back at the plate, as if nothing had happened. But from the back of the cafeteria, an older prisoner narrows his eyes. He looks at the bald man's face, at his broad neck, at his shoulders, at his enormous hands holding those flimsy sticks, and he whispers, almost in disbelief, "No way, is that Mike Tyson?" The friend next to him widens his eyes. "Stop it, man. Mike Tyson wouldn't be here." But the seed of doubt has already been planted, and when a doubt arises in a prison, it spreads quickly. The bully is still laughing, brandishing the watering can, but some people don't laugh anymore. Some just watch, because there's something in that silence, in that impossible calm. That doesn't go with weakness. It's the kind of calm you only see in people who have seen much worse. And now, the question that will change everything. Did the bully realize who he just messed with? Go ahead and subscribe and leave a like now, because this story is just beginning. The cafeteria is large, larger than it appears at first glance. Round metal tables bolted to the floor, fixed benches, concrete walls painted in an institutional beige, bright light streaming in through tall windows with double grills, orange uniform on one side, blue on the other. Each color has its own meaning. Security level, type of crime, sentence length. Nobody explains it out loud, but everyone knows. In the midst of this predictable routine, two men stand out for completely opposite reasons. The bully is impossible to ignore. Almost 2 meters tall, shoulders too broad to go unnoticed. Tattoos that look like they were done in 3 different prisons. A dragon on his chest, a skull on his left arm, a woman's name scratched on his right forearm. He never sits for long, always standing, always gesturing, always speaking loudly enough to be heard 3 tables away. When he laughs, everyone around him laughs along, not because it's funny, but because it's safer to laugh with him than to become a target. On the other side, there's the man in blue, bald, dark skin, a neck as thick as a tree trunk, enormous hands, marked by old scars that no one asks where they came from. He always chooses the same table, right corner, near the wall, with his back to the window. Never talks to anyone, never asks for anything, never complains about the food. And every day, without fail, he takes those chopsticks out of his pocket. The first time someone saw it, they thought it was a joke. Then they thought it was a fad. Now, it's become part of the landscape. Here comes the guy with the toothpicks. But nobody knows his real name. Nobody knows why he's there. Nobody knows how much longer he'll be there. He's just the weirdo at the corner table. While the bully builds his reputation through yelling, pushing, and constant provocation, the man in blue builds something different. Silence. Presence. A kind of invisible weight that makes people stray from their path without understanding why. But the bully never swerved. For him, silence is a sign of weakness, and weakness is an invitation. In recent days, the provocations have increased. An accidental shove in the lunch line, a comment about a Japanese man lost in prison. A loud laugh would erupt whenever the man passed by. And now, the watering can. The bully doesn't realize it, but he has just crossed a line he shouldn't have crossed. Because there are people there who have already started to get suspicious. And when the truth comes out, it will be too late to apologize. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who had no idea who you really were? Comment below about your experience. The truth is that bullying didn't start today. The bully had been picking on him for weeks. Every single day there was something new. In the breakfast line, an accidental shove almost knocked over the tray. During shower time, a loud comment was made about a bald guy who looks like a Buddhist monk. In the courtyard, a joke was made about him being too old to still be here. And always, that exaggerated laugh, loud enough to ensure everyone could hear it. For the other prisoners, it had already become entertainment. The man in blue entering the cafeteria was almost a sign. Oh, here it comes. The show has begun. Some laughed, others just watched. But no one intervened. Prison has its own unseen rules, and one of them is simple. Don't meddle in what doesn't concern you. But that day, the bully woke up wanting something more. Perhaps because the routine was boring. Perhaps because he needed to reaffirm who was in charge. Perhaps because that man's silence was too irritating. He waits for the man in blue to sit down. He waits for him to open the tray. He waits for him to take the chopsticks out of his pocket. And then she blurts it out, loudly, for the whole table to hear. Look, the bald samurai again, eating with a chopstick. I wonder if I water him, will he grow? The table next to them bursts into laughter. Someone claps. Another shouts, "Water it, go!" The bully looks around, fueled by the attention. He loves it, being the center of attention, being the funny one, being the guy nobody dares to challenge. The man in blue doesn't raise his eyes. He just holds the chopsticks more firmly. He presses his fingers around the worn wood. His jaw moves, not in anger, but in a state of control, like someone chewing on something invisible, something old, something that should have been swallowed a long time ago. He breathes deeply through his nose, exhales slowly through your mouth, and he starts eating again. But a more observant prisoner, sitting 2 tables behind, notices something. The way he holds the chopsticks doesn't look like someone who learned for fun. It's precise, firm, instinctive, and the hands. Those hands are too big, too scarred, too powerful. These are not the hands of someone who has always been quiet. These are the hands of someone who chose to remain silent. And that difference changes everything. The most observant prisoner frowns. Look again. You try to remember something you can't quite name yet. But the feeling is there. This guy is not who he seems to be. And you? Can you tell when someone is hiding something? There are always some forgotten items lying around in the cafeteria. Stacked trays, cracked plastic cups, cleaning buckets leaning against the wall. And on that day, lying near the sink, was a metal watering can. Old, rusty at the edges. Used to water the wilted plants in the outdoor patio. The bully looks at that and gets an idea. He claps once, drawing attention. Hey guys, pay attention. I'm going to do a science experiment here. Anticipatory laughter. He walks over to the watering can, picks it up with both hands, feels its weight. He smiles at the invisible audience. Go to the water fountain, fill it to the brim. The water makes a metallic sound hitting the bottom. The prisoners start nudging each other. Look there, look there. He's going to get into trouble. Go water the bald guy, bro. That guy is crazy. But no one stands up to stop it. No one says anything. They just watch, waiting for the spectacle. The man in blue continues eating. Slow, methodical, as if nothing around him mattered. But he knows. He always knows when something is coming. The bully walks down the aisle between the tables. Theatrical. Long strides. Water ink and held high like a trophy. He stops right behind the man in blue. For a second, he hesitates. Just a second. Because there's something about that guy's posture. Something that shouldn't be there. But the ego is louder than intuition. He picks up the watering can, and he dumps it. The water falls directly on the man's head. Cold, heavy, noisy. It runs down his face, down his neck. It soaks the blue uniform that clings to his body. It drips onto his plate of food. It forms a puddle on the table. And then, the cafeteria explodes. Laughter, shouts. Someone bangs on the table with an open hand. Another whistles. Caralho! Oh, you crazy guy, bro! He watered the old man. The bully raises the watering can like a champion raises a belt. He grins broadly. He looks around, drinking in the attention like someone drinking water after running miles. But the man in blue doesn't move. He just sits there, dripping with sweat. Water trickling down her forehead, through her closed eyes, through her mouth that won't open to scream. He is breathing. Once, twice. Place the chopstick slowly on the edge of the wet plate. Then she raises her hand, slowly, in a controlled manner, and runs it through her hair, removing the excess water. Don't swear. Don't push anyone. Don't get up from your chair. Just wipe your face, and go back to looking at your plate, as if it were just another inconvenience, another rain shower, another test. And it is precisely this calmness, this absolute lack of reaction, which makes some prisoners stop laughing, because something is wrong there. There's something about the way he held back his anger, in the way the neck muscles tensed but didn't explode, in the way he chose not to react, which doesn't suit someone weak. It's the kind of control you only learn after having lost it many times before. Could you stay calm like this? Or would you have already exploded? Comment, I would explode, or I would control myself. Any other prisoner would have freaked out on the spot. He would have flipped the table, charged at him, thrown the plate in the bully's face, started a fight that would have taken half a dozen guards to break up. Prison is like that. Respect is earned through reaction. Those who don't react become doormats. But the man in blue doesn't follow those rules. He closes his eyes for a full 3 seconds. Water still runs down her face. It drips from her chin. It forms small puddles around her feet. He takes a deep breath. His chest rises, broad and firm. And it exhales, slowly, like someone mentally counting to 10. Then open your eyes. Don't look at the bully. Don't look at anyone. She simply reaches out, grabs a paper napkin that's already soaked, and wipes her face. Her eyebrows, her neck, slow movements, precise, almost meditative. He places the wet napkin on the table. Look at the ruined plate of food, soggy rice, chicken floating in dirty water. And then, he does something unexpected. Pick up the chopsticks again. Set aside a piece of chicken that is still whole, and he continues eating, as if nothing had happened, as if public humiliation were merely a passing inconvenience. The bully is still standing, watering can in hand, waiting for the explosion. He wanted a fight. He wanted chaos. He wanted to prove, once again, that he's the guy nobody can challenge. But there's no fighting. There is no screaming. There's only silence. And this silence is starting to weigh on us. Some prisoners exchange glances. Man, that's weird. He didn't even blink, man. What kind of crazy person wouldn't react to that? A younger prisoner, sitting nearby, feels a shiver run down the back of his neck. He can't explain it. But that wet man, eating in silence, suddenly seems more dangerous than anyone screaming. The bully forces a laugh. Hey guys, the guy's so weak he doesn't even care. But his voice came out different, less confident, more forced. He awkwardly puts the watering can down and returns to his desk, trying to maintain his composure. But something changed. The joke didn't have the desired effect. Because humiliating someone only works when the person feels humiliated. And what about that man in blue? He doesn't seem to feel anything. Or worse, he feels it, but he chose not to show it. And at the back of the cafeteria, the oldest prisoner, the one who always observes everything in silence, tilts his head. He looks at the wet face, at the broad shoulders, at the thick neck, at the enormous hands gripping those fragile little sticks with frightening precision, and he whispers, almost to himself, "It's not possible." He understands this calmness. You've seen her before, on TV, in old magazines, in fights that defined a generation. This is not the calmness of a weak person. It's the calmness of someone who has knocked out too many people and is tired of proving it. At the back of the cafeteria, leaning against the concrete wall, sits a man who has seen it all. Gray hair, a face marked by scars that tell stories he will never speak aloud. Arms crossed, neutral expression. He doesn't laugh at the jokes. He doesn't participate in the teasing. He just observes. Always watch. When the water fell on the man in blue's head, he didn't react like the others. He didn't laugh. He didn't clap. He didn't say anything. He just narrowed his eyes, and he kept looking. He sees the way the wet man is holding the chopsticks. It's not a casual gesture. It's not imitation from a movie. It's technique, muscle memory, something that was taught decades ago and never forgotten. He sees the hands, enormous, thick fingers. But they hold those thin little sticks with a strange delicacy. Hands that have struck. Many times. Many people. He sees the neck. Too big to be ordinary. Muscles that don't come from a prison gym. They come from another life. From professional training. From the boxing ring. And then he sees the face. Wet. Serious. Controlled. And something clicks. He turns to the prisoner next to him. A younger guy with a tribal tattoo on his arm. Speaks softly, almost whispering. "Hey, take a good look at that guy over there." The youngest one is looking. "Who? The one with the toothpicks?" "Yes. Look at his face, his neck, his hands." The youngest frowns. He doesn't understand. The gray-haired man insists. "Dude, I think that's Mike Tyson." The youngest one's eyes widen. "Stop it, dude. Are you crazy? Mike Tyson wouldn't be here with us. I'm telling you." Look closely. The youngest looks again, now with more attention. The shape of his face, the structure of his body, the way he moves, economical, precise, like someone who has spent his entire life being watched. Face. Doubt has been sown, and prison is a small place. Secrets don't last 5 minutes. The prisoner next to him listens. He turns to the other. He whispers, "Hey, that bald guy over there. They say he's Mike Tyson." "Who?" "The guy with the toothpicks. Crazy. Mike Tyson, the fighter. Stop traveling. I swear, look at his face. Look at his body. Look at his hands." And so, by word of mouth, the information begins to circulate, like creeping fire. Slow at first, then faster. One table whispering, then 2, then 3. Eyes are starting to turn towards him with a different intention. No more joking around, to check. The man in blue continues eating, oblivious, or pretending to be, but he senses the changing glances. He feels the weight of the entire cafeteria turning toward him. Not in a mocking way. I'm unsure. Fear is beginning to sprout, and the bully, there at his table, still laughing to himself at his own deed. He doesn't realize that the ground beneath his feet has begun to crack. Because if that rumor is true, if that wet, quiet man eating with chopsticks is really who they say he is, so he didn't humiliate a weakling. He humiliated a legend. In front of everyone. Legends never forget. The rumor is spreading like wildfire, from table to table, from cell to cell, through the corridors, through the courtyard. That bald guy in blue is Mike Tyson. I don't believe. I swear, man. Look at his face. Look at his neck. Look at his hands. Some dig out old magazines stored under the mattress. Faded photos of old fights, yellowed newspaper articles. They place them side by side. The face, the structure, the presence. Wow, it's really him. The penny is starting to drop, one by one. Meanwhile, the bully is still at his desk, displaying the empty watering can as if it were a trophy. He pats an accomplice on the shoulder. "Did you see how I humiliated the old man? I soaked him completely and he didn't even react. Too weak." The accomplice doesn't laugh. He looks at the bully, and then at the man in blue. "Dude, there's some talk going on. What's this all about?" "That guy over there is Mike Tyson." Silence. The bully lets out a forced laugh. "Mike Tyson? That bald guy over there?" He points mockingly. "That's just a weird old man, bro. Stop overthinking it." But his voice comes out differently, less firm. With a slight crack in the middle, another prisoner approaches. "Seriously, man, people are saying it's him, and it makes sense. Look at his body. Look at the way he walks. Nobody walks like that for no reason." The bully forces another smile, but sweat begins to appear on his forehead. He looks at the man in blue again. This time, not with mockery. "I'm unsure," and doubt brings fear along with it. Someone shouts from the other side of the cafeteria, "Hey, you with the watering can. Don't you think it's dangerous to keep bothering Mike Tyson?" Nervous laughter, but nobody laughs at him anymore. Now they laugh at the bully. The table around them starts to move away, literally, chairs being dragged, people getting up with their trays and going to another corner. Nobody wants to be around when the bomb explodes. And then, the man in blue stands up. Slowly. No rush. He pushes the chair back with his foot. The metallic sound echoes in the cafeteria, which is now almost silent. Uniform still wet. Water dripping on the floor. Firm steps. He turns his face away and looks straight at the bully. That look, cold, direct, not angry, but with something worse, absolutely certain. It's the look of someone who has knocked out world champions, from someone who has faced beasts both in and out of the ring, from someone who knows exactly what they can do, and chooses not to do it. For now, the bully feels his stomach churn. My legs go weak. My mouth is dry. He wants to say something. He wants to laugh. He wants to pretend he's still in control. But he can't, because looking into that man's eyes is like looking inside a cage and realizing that the door was never locked. The man in blue takes 2 steps toward him. Only 2. And that's it. It says nothing. It is not necessary. The bully swallows hard. He gets off the bench slowly. His legs are wobbly. Place the watering can on the ground, and it retreats. 1 step, 2, 3. Go back to his table in silence. Sit down. Look at the plate. And for the first time since he entered that prison, he has nothing to say. The entire cafeteria is watching. Nobody talks. Nobody laughs. They only observe the moment when the bully stops being a bully, and he became just another one. Everyone expects blood. Wait, scream, punch, chairs flying, guards running with batons. That's how it works in prison. You get humiliated, you react. Otherwise, you become a joke forever. But the man in blue doesn't follow that script. He takes 2 more steps toward the bully, wet uniform clinging to his body, water still dripping from his chin, neck muscles tense, jaw locked. But the eyes are calm, frighteningly calm. The entire cafeteria holds its breath. Nobody chews. Nobody moves. Nobody dares to make a sound. Even the guards near the door stop talking and just stare. The bully is sitting down now, back straight, hands on the table, trying to look composed. But my fingers are trembling. Just a little, but they are trembling. The man in blue stops in front of him, just a few centimeters away. He could not, with a single movement, take the guy out right there. A punch, a shove, a gesture. Everyone knows that. Even the bully knows. But he does nothing. Instead, he leans over, slowly, get close to the bully's ear, and he speaks, quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. We don't know what was said. Nobody heard. But the effect is immediate. The bully loses all the color in his face. His eyes widen. His breath catches in his chest. He swallows hard. Once, twice. And when the man in blue walks away, the bully doesn't get up. He's not responding. It does absolutely nothing. He just lies there, frozen, as if he'd heard death itself whisper in his ear. The man in blue turns his back. He walks back to his table, pick up the chopsticks again, sit down, and he continues eating, as if that were just another inconvenience, another interruption, another moment that he chose not to turn into a tragedy. The cafeteria remains silent for another full 10 seconds, until someone, deep down, lets out a sigh of relief. Another wipes his forehead. The conversations resume, slowly, quietly, but nobody looks at the bully the same way anymore, and nobody looks at the man in blue the same way anymore, either. Now he's no longer the weirdo with the toothpicks. Now he's the guy who chose not to destroy anyone, even though he has every right to do so. And that choice, not violence, but control, that's what's most frightening. Because any idiot can throw a punch. But how can you hold back when anger is screaming in your chest? This requires something far more rare. True power. In the following days, the bully disappears. Not literally. He's still there. But he doesn't climb on benches anymore. He doesn't laugh loudly. He doesn't provoke anyone. He eats quickly and leaves. Avoid the cafeteria during peak hours. And when she crosses paths with the man in blue in the hallway, he looks away and changes direction. Like everyone should have done from the beginning. Behind the funny scene with the watering can, there are several weighty lessons to be learned from it. And if you pay attention, they're good for a lifetime. First lesson, you never know who you're messing with. There are a lot of people out there who seem weak, strange, out of place. People who don't shout, who don't show off, who go unnoticed. But behind that silence, there's a story. He has experience. He's fought battles you wouldn't even imagine. And when you underestimate someone like that, you're not humiliating the person. You're revealing your own ignorance. The bully looked at the man in blue and saw weakness. He saw someone who could be an easy target, but what he didn't see was decades of training. Struggles, victories, defeats, rebuilding. He hadn't seen a man who had faced giants and won. He only saw a bald man eating with chopsticks, and he paid dearly for that blindness. Second lesson, true power doesn't shout. Take a good look at this scene. The bully needed an audience. He needed laughter. He needed to prove, every single day, that he was the strongest. But the man in blue, he didn't need to prove anything. Because those who truly have power don't need to announce it. True strength is silent. She doesn't threaten. She doesn't show off. She doesn't seek validation. She simply exists. And when she needs to show up, she doesn't need to shout. One look is enough. Third lesson, control is more powerful than violence. The man in blue could have taken down the bully right there, with a punch, with a movement, with the wrong word at the right time. But he didn't do that, because he learned a long time ago that violence solves things in the short term. But control builds respect for a lifetime. Anyone can explode. Anyone can break everything when provoked. But how can you hold back anger when it's boiling in your chest, choosing not to react when everyone expects you to? This is strength on another level. Fourth lesson, many people only feel strong by stepping on others. The bully wasn't strong. He was noisy, and there is a difference. He needed to humiliate others to feel important. I needed other people's laughter to validate my own existence. But all it took was the rumor that the man was Mike Tyson, for the whole sandcastle to crumble. Because when you build your reputation on the weaknesses of others, all it takes is for someone truly strong to appear, so you can disappear off the map. And the last lesson, perhaps the most important, the biggest knockout anyone can take. It's not physical, it's moral. The bully didn't get beaten up. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't arrested. He wasn't officially punished. But he was knocked out of shame, through silence, based on the perception that he crossed the line with the wrong person. And everyone saw it. This type of knockout doesn't disappear in a week. He's staying, in memory, in reputation. in the eyes of others. And while the man in blue continues eating peacefully with his chopsticks, the bully carries every day the weight of having been small when he thought he was great. If this story made you think differently about respect, strength, or control, share it now. Someone needs this lesson today. At the end of that day, the cafeteria returned to normal. The trays were collected, the prisoners returned to their cells, the guards changed shifts. The routine continued, as it always does, but something changed. The man in blue remains himself, silent, observant, eating with his chopsticks every single day, same table, same corner, same impossible calm. But now, nobody laughs anymore. No one provokes anymore. No one dares to give you a dirty look anymore. Because now everyone knows. That quiet man, in his wet uniform, who didn't react, he was not weak. It was just controlled. And control, when it comes from someone who was once one of the greatest beasts on the planet, it's the most dangerous thing that exists. The bully? He's still there, but he's not a bully anymore. He's just another prisoner trying to survive. He eats quickly. He leaves quickly. He avoids eye contact. And when she crosses paths with the man in blue in the hallway, he lowers his head, because now he knows respect is not earned by shouting. Respect is earned in silence, in posture. It's in the way you choose not to destroy someone, even when you could. And you, if I had been in that cafeteria that day, you'd be the guy who laughs with most people, or the guy who can tell, in silence, who truly deserves respect. You would be the bully who confuses noise with strength. Or could it be the man in blue, who knows that true power never needs to prove anything? Comment below if you have you ever underestimated someone and been surprised later. Tell us about it. Because stories like this aren't just about prison, about Mike Tyson, or about a watering can. They're about how we choose to show who we are, regarding how we react when we are tested. It's about how we treat others, especially when we think they can't fight back. And if this story made you think differently about strength, respect, or control, leave a like now. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel, because here we don't just tell stories to entertain. We tell stories to remind you of something important. The real knockout isn't the one you deliver, it's what you choose not to give. And turn on notifications, because there's a lot more of this story coming soon. Because in the end, true strength is rarely displayed.